Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the short story, Late Night by author Thu Nguyen. The most foolish thing is that when people meet, it is sometimes not by choice, but as if orchestrated by fate. In the dimly lit corner of a cafe, filled with the haze of cigarette smoke and the bitter scent of coffee, a young woman sits across from an older man. Her eyes drift absently over the unfamiliar faces around them. They stare, casting glances at the young woman sitting with a man in his 50s, their eyes a mix of curiosity and quiet judgment, as if trying to piece together the story unfolding between them. The man breaks the silence, his voice deep, but lacking the warmth needed to bridge the gap between two generations. "Can I have your phone number? Maybe we can talk from time to time." The woman hesitates for a moment. She feels herself sinking into the depths of loneliness, tired of the dragging days in this city. She knows his type well, older, with eyes that carry a sharpness born of life's many lessons, grasping at the freshness of youth but lacking any real appeal. His face is forgettable, his gestures and words tinged with an air of experience, yet unable to hide the weariness etched by time. Even knowing this, she slowly recites her number, perhaps just because her newly bought phone has never rung, just like her heart has never stirred in this city. That night, the sound of her phone truly broke the wall of silence that had wrapped around her small apartment. She looked down at the screen and saw his name. A part of her wanted to pick up immediately, but she reminded herself to take her time, to pretend to be a bit aloof, as if she were the one holding all the distance between them. Finally, she raised the phone to her ear, his voice deep yet gentle, like a warm breeze soothing the bitter chill of loneliness she had endured for so long, came through. "Are you still awake?" The question seemed simple, yet it struck the empty space in her heart, the one filled with sleepless nights, the silent ticking of the clock, counting down each second, blending with the creak of iron gates as her late-night neighbors returned home, all forming the lonely soundtrack of the city. "I'm not," she replied, her voice soft, as if afraid to disturb the night's fragile calm. Lately, she'd been struggling with insomnia, perhaps because of the unspoken anxieties quietly eating away at her soul. She feared the stillness of the night when every sound seemed to echo louder, cutting deeper into her solitude. Now she found herself standing before a stranger, an older man with a face marked by time and the dust of life. What could he possibly want to hear from her? Stories of love? That seemed unlikely, yet perhaps fate had brought him to her, like a wandering ship finding an unexpected shore, there to listen to the thoughts she'd carried since childhood, the burdens too heavy to share with anyone else. For he, a stranger forever, would never be a part of her future, nor truly belong to her present. It was this very sense of uncertainty that made her feel safe, no fear of judgment, no hesitation in opening her heart. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who loved to play. What she enjoyed most was running freely with her neighborhood friends across the green hills, letting the cool breeze of the fields sweep over her, and watching kites soar high under the setting sun. She would often sit on the hillside, gazing at flocks of birds returning to their nests, her heart swelling with happiness, knowing that at home, her parents, sister, and little brother were waiting. But beautiful dreams often fade quickly. That night, the girl couldn't sleep, her eyes wide open as the hushed whispers of her parents drifted from the small kitchen. "We have nothing left to eat. Maybe tomorrow you and the girl should go beg for food, or else the whole family will starve. Take her to the temple by the river. I've seen many people coming there to pray. They might be willing to give some money out of kindness." She lay still, her eyes filling with tears. So, starting tomorrow, she would no longer go to school, no longer run across the fields with her friends, no longer watch the deep blue sky or the birds returning to their nests each evening. These thoughts weighed heavily on her young mind, as if her once peaceful world had suddenly crumbled. That night, she cried quietly, clinging tightly to the simple dreams that had once been her reality. She sent a message to the stranger, "That little girl is me." She paused for a moment, stunned when she received the reply. How pitiful. Please, continue. Perhaps he didn't realize or deliberately ignored the impact those 3 short words could have. Yet, strangely, she didn't feel hurt. Instead, it felt like a door that had long been shut was being quietly opened, revealing the painful memories of her childhood, waiting to be freed. She slowly typed each word, as if each old story was flowing from the depths of her heart. The next morning, the father and his little girl left their home at the break of dawn, walking down the rough dirt path leading to the temple by the river. The father was completely blind, his hands groping for the way, each step entirely dependent on the small hand of his daughter. She led him over every stone, around every tree root, not daring to walk too fast for fear he might trip. When they arrived, the 2 huddled in a corner, blending into the group of beggars already seated there, their weathered faces bowed in humility before the bustling stream of temple-goers. The girl knew she had to be good, had to be braver than her age allowed, because now she was not just a child. She was her father's eyes, the hope of the entire family waiting at home. She didn't dare run around like other children, didn't dare leave her father's side for a moment. She only sat beside him, her small hands reaching out, softly murmuring requests for a few spare coins from passing strangers. Each time someone stopped to drop a few coins into her palm, she would bow her head slightly, her lips whispering words of gratitude, as if each coin was a precious gift from life itself. As night fell, the 2 gathered their old cloth scraps and huddled into the corner of a makeshift stall, abandoned by day and left to shield them from the bone-chilling cold. The air was filled with the rustling of insects, the damp smell of earth and dry grass wrapping around them. Her father lay curled up, his hand still clutching hers tightly, as if afraid of losing his last anchor in the world. The little girl looked up at the night sky through the cracks in the roof, trying to count the few scattered stars, telling herself that tomorrow might be better, that perhaps there would be more generous souls, so she and her father wouldn't have to sleep with empty stomachs. But the truth was, such nights were not just a passing phase. They stretched on for months, even years, until she forgot what it felt like to sit in her own house or to hear the laughter of her friends on the childhood fields. She sent the message, her heart suddenly lighter, as if she had just released a burden that had weighed her down for so long. He replied, "So, how long did you and your father stay there the first time?" She paused for a moment, recalling the long, scorching days and cold nights by the riverbank, then slowly typed, "About 10 days, I think. After that, my father and I had to go back, carrying a few coins, some rice, and a few packs of biscuits given by the kind-hearted, just enough to keep the family from starving. That year, my hometown was in dire straits. The land was parched, the crops had failed, and our family had no choice but to rely on these begging trips. You know, as we neared the village, I felt a surge of excitement, like a fledgling bird returning to its nest. I just wanted to rush home, to run to my best friend's house and proudly tell her that I had returned. But then I hesitated, slowed my steps, because I couldn't stop thinking about the judging eyes, the teasing whispers that might come from my friends. I feared they would laugh at me for having to beg, for the mark of poverty that clung to every step I took. But just as my father and I stepped onto the dike leading into the village, I saw the figures of my sister and little brother running toward us. We hadn't planned it, but perhaps they had been waiting, hoping for our return all this time. My brother eagerly grabbed my father's hand, guiding him over the uneven path, while my sister took the heavy sack from my father's back, her eyes bright with joy, even though her face had grown gaunt from hunger. As I crossed the bamboo gate, my feet felt as if they had sprouted wings. I dashed straight to my best friend's house, as if trying to reclaim a piece of the stolen childhood joy. But when I stepped into her yard, I suddenly felt out of place. Her family was sitting together, their eyes briefly flashing with surprise before falling silent, as if they didn't know what to say. I felt the same, unable to utter the usual cheerful greeting, my feet growing heavy, weighed down by shame and self-consciousness. Though I had returned home, reunited with my loved ones, from that moment on, I knew I could never be carefree again. Never again the little girl who could laugh freely without the burden of her family's struggles. And that, I think, was a loss I have never been able to forget. The next day, my mother told me, "You should go back to school. Your teacher has asked your friends several times, wondering why you haven't been coming to class." So the following morning, I returned to school, but with a face full of shame and hesitation. I sat on the old wooden bench, my eyes fixed on the blackboard, but my mind wandered to a distant world. The teacher's voice droned on, but it couldn't pierce through the fog clouding my thoughts. I knew I had fallen behind, unable to keep up with my classmates because of the days spent wandering the streets with my father, because of the missing books, because of the constant hunger that gnawed at my empty stomach, making it impossible to concentrate. But even so, I still felt lucky to have come back home, to see my family again, to hear my sister and brother's laughter each evening, and most precious of all, to run with my friends across the vast green fields. These were small, fleeting moments, but they gave life a sense of meaning, even amidst hardship. But that joy didn't last long. Every morning, I would hear my parents whispering in the kitchen, their voices hoarse with worry. Maybe I should take the girl and go begging again, at least until the next harvest. My mother let out a weary sigh. "But if you go, how will she keep up with her studies? Never mind, I'll sell the dog tomorrow. We'll buy some rice first." That night, I lay awake, my heart feeling like it was being squeezed in a vice. That dog wasn't just a pet, it was my closest friend, the one that listened to my whispers, ran with me through the tall grass, and chased butterflies along the dikes. I feared losing it, feared that my small, humble home would feel even lonelier without its familiar bark to welcome me each time I returned. The next morning, when I saw a man on an old bicycle approaching our gate, a rusty metal cage clanging at his side, I realized what was about to happen. He stopped in front of our house, pulling a thick rope noose from his bike's side. My heart tightened. I dashed out to the field, calling my dog to me, desperately trying to keep it close to protect it from being taken away. But my mother had seen me. She stepped out of the doorway, her voice trembling but resolute. "If we don't sell it, the whole family will starve." I didn't know what to say. My legs felt rooted to the ground, my eyes wide as I watched the man slip the noose around my dog's neck. It struggled, its eyes wide with confusion, as if silently asking me why this was happening. When he lifted it and tossed it into the cramped, cold cage, it let out a faint, pitiful whimper, and I felt my knees buckle, my strength draining away. As the old bicycle creaked away, the cage swaying on the back, I watched my dog crane its neck, its tear-filled eyes looking back at me as if it were crying. I wanted to run after it, to wrench it free from that cold, confining cage, but my legs remained frozen in place, helplessly rooted to the spot, while silent tears streamed down my cheeks. That was the first time I truly understood what it felt like to lose a friend. "All right, I'm gonna sleep now. See you tomorrow." That night, she managed to sleep through without waking, something she hadn't expected. Perhaps a part of the past, long piled up and weighing heavily on her heart, had finally been released. She curled up on her small bed, closed her eyes, and let a faint smile play on her lips, feeling as light as a dry leaf carried far away by the wind. But then, in that hazy moment between wakefulness and sleep, a fleeting thought crossed her mind. I wonder what that man must think of me, expecting some sweet, romantic stories, but instead he got nothing but sorrowful tales. The ticking of the clock echoed like the heartbeat of time, reminding her that every life is filled with gaps waiting to be filled, whether with joy or with sorrow. She closed her eyes again, letting herself drift slowly into slumber, her heart as light as a feather. To follow the next chapters of the young girl's journey with the older man she just met, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give me a like. Thank you, and see you next time.